Hey everybody, welcome back. We're here with Angela and Nico once again from RevGen Consulting. As always, any questions that you have, feel free to reach out. Go to our website and submit a form or contact us. Connect with us on LinkedIn. We're happy to chat. Today, what we're going to be discussing is kind of the do's and don'ts of investor relations, but with the focus of inbound versus outbound leads. I think Angela is going to kick us off by sharing a little bit about how marketing can bring inbound leads to a pipeline, right, and feed that top of funnel to make sure that salespeople are busy, right? These investor relations folks are busy, while also kind of the middle of the funnel where it transfers over, and then how a salesperson can feed themselves and increase their pipeline with kind of some outbound strategies. But I think to start off, Angela, why don't you share a little bit about what's a good way to bring in some inbound leads so that salespeople, investor relations folks are engaging with high quality folks.
So thank you. When it comes to inbound, I think the way that you market yourself, you have to diversify the ways that you're present, right? So what I mean by that is diversify your lead sources. So go where you can potentially attract high quality leads. And inbound marketing can include doing some paid campaigns. A lot of people do Google Ads, and if it's appropriate, sometimes some folks do, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and so forth. And then, you can also do a lot of value add content, which is what we highly recommend is, you do educational webinar series or, write white papers or, blog posts that really talk about some of the challenges, and some trends in the investment world and things like that. Some of the relevant topics and trending topics, you want to write about that and get people to see you as thought leaders. And then there's influencers, there's a bunch of ways, but basically the key is we talk about omni-channel strategy, and what that means is you want to be present on social media. You want to be where the investors are and where they get the news. And by seeing you as a thought leader, and basically seeing your company on various platforms and channels, you are able to attract them and have them come to you. And that's essentially the essence of inbound marketing. So then after we get the leads to come in and fill out a form, that's where the investor relations team will, come in. And Nico, if you want to kind of talk about how you would approach those leads.
Yeah, absolutely. So, that's great. Sales and marketing should always have a symbiotic relationship. There should always be a feedback loop. Um, because when an inbound lead comes in, you're asking, the first thing that you're asking is, how did you hear about us, right? How did you come inbound? The answer isn't always necessarily, what shows up. And so, having your list of questions ready to ask them, with inbound, and these are folks who have raised their hand. These are folks who are actually interested in what you're doing. They've been proactive, and so the fact that they're raising their hand and reaching out to you allows you a little bit more leeway in some of the questions that you ask. You can take a little bit more time, right? You don't get It's not like cold calling where you get maybe a couple minutes. You have to ask some interesting questions and then try to close for a meeting or try to close for a next step. With uh, an inbound lead, right? You should have your list of questions ready. So it's like, okay, well, when it comes to private equity investing, okay, perfect. So like, what's your target investment amount, right? Like, what are you looking for in a return profile? What type of other investments are you in? Like, what's your experience? It's like, oh, okay, well. Sometimes it's like, oh yeah, I have company stock, right? Like 100% of my net worth is tied up in my company stock. It's like, okay, well, that's great that you're looking to diversify. Some folks, it's like, oh, I do real estate investing all the time. I have rental properties. I'm in partnerships. I'm in all sorts of stuff, right? And they're just highly, highly diversified. This is just another investment in their portfolio. But for some, they don't have anything, right? They're like, oh, well, I have a small, stock portfolio, and I'm just trying to, branch out into other types of investments. And so they're neophytes, right? They are new to all of this, and so while you're asking these questions, while you're qualifying, right, every step of the way that they go through, you're making sure that you're educating, right? You got to educate to learn, to earn the right to sell. And so when you're doing that, you're making sure that there's trust and there's transparency, and say, hey, this is the, proposed, this is the projected return profile, this is the timeline. All of these are subject to, change. This is something that isn't necessarily uh, something that is guaranteed, right? Knowing that, going into it, knowing that, and most savvy investors will know, yep, this is not guaranteed. I could lose all my money on this, or et cetera, et cetera. And just being transparent about it. Don't say, oh yeah, this is the best investment you're ever going to get into. This is the highest returns, and you don't find anything like this. Using superlatives can really really be damaging. And so making sure that they understand, hey, like this is an investment like any other, but this is what makes it special. And so it's telling that story. It's building. It's like, hey, like these are the partners behind it. These are the developers. These are this is the construction team. Like these are the folks who are doing this. This is their experience. And then it's like, hey, like this is the area that this project is in, and really really pitching the story itself, right? By storytelling, you can really get a lot across, instead of just being like, hey, this is the return profile. It's like anybody can say, hey, let's go through the returns, let's go through a pro forma, let's go through this kind of stuff. That's great, and those people are fantastic in their own way, because they're straight to the point. If you have what they're looking for, they're going to sign up. But for newer investors or folks that aren't necessarily new, it's good to storytell. With an outbound kind of strategy, kind of shifting gears here,
Mhm.
you're reaching out to folks. You're going through different channels, and so leveraging your network, other people's networks, et cetera, and then figuring out who your ideal customer, ideal your ICP, right, your ideal customer profile, like who that is, right, like who's your ideal investor, and then trying to find out how they are, where they are. So are they talking on a specific forum? Are they online? Are they on a specific subreddit? Are they on X? Are they listening to a specific podcast? Do they go to meetups? Are they on certain Zooms with other investors? And knowing all of those things, like, okay, how can we be proactive? And that is something that you work with marketing on, is making sure that they are targeting these channels as well. But as a salesperson, it's like, okay, well, this person kind of fits the profile. Let's reach out to them. Like, let me send an email. Let me give them a call if I can. And doing that will allow you to increase the pipeline that you have, right? If you're just waiting for inbound, that dries up. There's only so many investors out there that you will get through an inbound channel. The others you have to be proactive and get.
I really like that point, because I was just going to ask you if there's a preference for inbound versus outbound, but I think you raised an excellent point where you have to do both. I do feel like with inbound, people just kind of wait and see, oh yeah, we'll get a lot of leads. And I think another mistake that some fund managers may make is they will just spend a ton of money just to say, oh, we got X amount of leads from this ad or from this video. And the problem is that they may not be ready to have those conversations with your salesperson, right? Like they might just be thinking about it like, oh, okay, maybe I'll talk to them at some point, but they're not ready to buy. Or, like I just kind of feel like inbound can cost a lot if you don't mix it with some outbound, and do proactive outreach. And the other point that you raised that I really like is telling the story. Like getting to know your prospects, asking those questions rather than going right into, hey, let me give you a presentation. Here's our IRR and all that. I feel like they can turn off a lot of people because you're not even getting to know them and asking them what they want and what they're looking to do. So I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, I agree. Right. It's knowing who you're talking to, and then tailoring the conversation to them is really the key to all of this. Inbound, outbound, right? Like the biggest thing is when you are going outbound, it doesn't matter. The people are going to ask, what are the returns? And so being transparent, having that transparent, attitude and kind of way of approaching things is going to be the key, right? It's like, yeah, these are the projected returns, right? It could be higher, could be lower. There's no guarantee, et cetera. All of that is important, but the biggest thing is just being transparent and telling the right story to the right person. And once you have trust and once you've educated them and they've learned, they'll make a decision. And the second best answer is no. But the overall, the thing being, let's just get them through the process, and let's get them through to to answer what they're looking for.
I love that. Thank you. I think that also this is where, we talked about the alignment between sales and marketing in another video, but I think once sales, investor relations gets on a call with these prospects, it's important for both teams to work together to create some kind of educational email campaign, right? It's like, depending on, what the conversation was like, then you determine, okay, maybe they're interested in these videos that we just filmed or some blog posts or some sales materials and things like that. So again, I don't think that there's like one approach to the prospects that you talk to, whether it's inbound, outbound. I think it's just knowing who they are and, figuring out what type of information they would like to know.
Exactly, right. It's knowing who you're talking to, but then tailoring the conversation to them. But the biggest thing is have your process, right? Have them stick to your process. So have the list of qualifying questions that you want, and make them follow your process. Because if you're following the prospects process, every time it's going to fall into some sort of trap or some sort of holdup. It's like have them. It's be like, no, this is our process. This is how it works. And make them work that instead of the other way around. And it's tricky, but once you get the hang of it, it's really a good way to run things because then, once the standardized process is there, it's really just pushing buttons. So I think that's. Oh, go
Let me
ahead.
ask you this, Nico. Before we go, I do have one question about how soon should you be sharing the specifics of the particular fund that they're investing in? So, because I
Yeah, good question.
opposing opinions on this, right? Some believe they should be gating all the content, they should be hiding it and not give them anything just so that there's a sense of FOMO and only when they're very serious then they give them the information. Or others say, well, it should be transparent so that all the information is there for them to make a decision.
Yeah, so I don't think there's one answer. I think it goes back to the point of it depends on the person. So
Mhm.
some folks are going to call and they're like, "What are the returns?" Okay, that's all I care about. Okay, so it's kind of like when you're selling something. It's like, okay, well, what's the price? It's like, okay, so if I give you the price that you're looking for, is this something that you can move forward on? Right? I mean, that's as simple as it gets. If these had, so you say to them, you answer a question with a question. And you say, if the returns are what you're looking for, is this something that you can move forward on? Oh, well, like I'm, blah, and you just call their bluff, right? Sometimes you deal with someone who's very sophisticated, and all they really want are the returns, the specifics. Get it to them, right? Like there are people out there who know more than you. That's something that you need to understand is when someone is don't get in your own way of the sale, right? Like that's the don't put yourself between you and a close. So if they're asking for information and you can tell that this is an sophisticated person, give it to them, right? Give it to them. If it's someone who, oh, they don't really know what they're doing, they're kind of new to this, you want to be a little bit more controlled in what you're sharing. You don't want to overshare just because it can be overwhelming. When something looks overwhelming, it looks scary, and then it can really turn them off from investing. So it's really having that best judgment that it's actually not that hard. You can generally tell who's someone who's sophisticated, by the way that they answer questions, versus someone who is not sophisticated at something like this. And they're both fine. People want to invest. It doesn't matter who invests as far as they meet the criteria. It's just okay. It's just the approach that you take with each of them. But no, that's a fantastic question. I think that's a good place to end this segment.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you. I hope you will check out other videos. You can find our recent webinars and some great content about direct marketing and sales by visiting revgenconsultancy.com. And as Nico said, please connect with us on LinkedIn. And we also, have our company page up there as well. So come check us out. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.